Good morning. In the last class we studied about the blood and the blood vessels. We are studying components of the circulatory system, and today we will study the third component, that is the heart. If you look at the diagram given in your NCERT, what we see in this diagram, we have four chambers of heart. This is one, this is second, this is third, and this is fourth. So there are four chambers of heart in case of human being. One is the right side is completely separated from the left side by a structure. So it is completely separated by a septum, that is the dividing wall between the right side and the left side. That means the blood on the right side is completely separated from the blood on the right side. So we have four chambers. One is the right atrium and right ventricle. Similarly, on the left side we have left atrium and left ventricle. The upper chambers are the atrium and the lower chambers are called the ventricle. Now if you see, we have blood coming into the ventricle, blood coming into the ventricle on the right side, and that is the veins through which blood is coming is known as vena cava, and we have two different openings, one coming from the upper part of the body which is above the heart, and the other coming from the lower body parts. So we have two different vena cavas in our that is entering into the right atrium of our heart. Another, from right atrium you can see blood moving into the right ventricle. From right ventricle the blood is going into out of this heart, and this will lead to a structure which is known as an organ in our body, which is lungs. This is going to lungs. So from right atrium blood goes to right ventricle, from right ventricle it goes to the lungs. Okay, and you can see another blood coming from pulmonary veins into the heart, that is the third chamber, left atrium, and from left atrium it moves to the left ventricle. From left ventricle again it is going out of the heart through the aorta. So we have from blood moves from the heart out of the heart by two different ways. One it is going from the right side to the lungs, and the other it is going from the left side through aorta to different parts of the body. If we look at this with a simple diagram, let's see what happens. We have pulmonary circulation, heart, and the body parts. What we saw, from heart, body parts, the blood was going into the heart, and from heart blood was coming into the body parts. From heart again the blood was going into the lungs, and from lungs it was coming back to the heart. This circulation is known as pulmonary circulation, and this circulation is known as systemic circulation. From heart the blood was going into the lungs through an artery called Pulmonary Artery, and from lungs it was coming back to heart through a vein called pulmonary vein. From heart blood was going into the body parts through an artery called dorsal aorta. This is the biggest artery in our body. From body parts blood is going into the heart with the help of vena cava. So you have to remember there are many other arteries and veins also, but you have to remember only these four for the present moment. Pulmonary artery taking blood from the heart to the lungs, pulmonary vein bringing back the blood to the heart, from the lungs, vena cava taking blood from the heart, body parts to the heart, and aorta taking blood from the heart to the body parts. When blood is coming from lungs to heart, this blood is oxygenated. So, we have oxygenated blood in this circulation. In this circulation, we have oxygenated blood. In this circulation, we have oxygenated blood. So, oxygenated blood is coming from lungs to the heart, right. So, if it is moving from heart to the lungs and from body parts to the heart, this is deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood. If you remember this term, what had I told you about it? Oxygenated blood is rich in oxygen, deoxygenated blood is rich in carbon dioxide. So, lungs is giving oxygenated blood to the heart and heart is giving oxygenated blood to the body part through pulmonary vein and aorta respectively. Body part is taking deoxygenated blood to the heart through vena cava, and from heart it moves to the lungs through pulmonary artery. So, this is oxygenation takes place in the lungs. You see, from heart deoxygenated blood is going to the lungs, and from in lungs oxygenation takes place, exchange of gases takes place in lungs at alveoli, and then oxygenated blood is brought back to the heart. So, this is double circulation in case of mammals and birds. Why do we need double circulation in case of mammals and birds? Because they require more energy. In case of reptiles and amphibians, there is some kind of mixing of blood. Why is that mixing of blood allowed? In this case, I told you right side is completely separated from the left side with the help of a septum. But in case of amphibians and reptiles, there is complete septum is not there, they have only 3-chambered heart. So, there is some kind of mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. They can tolerate that mixing because they do not require very high energy to maintain their body temperature. Their body temperature remains in accordance with the environmental temperature, and that is why they are called as cold blooded animals. Whereas human beings, the mammals and birds, they are warm blooded animals and they have to maintain their body temperature. They cannot change their body temperature according to the changes in the environment. So, they require more energy, and that is why no mixing of blood is allowed in case of mammals and birds. So, in the last class I had told you pulmonary vein and pulmonary artery, these are exceptions. You might have understood now. Pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood, whereas pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood. Let us go back to the diagram once again. Now, you see this part of the diagram, which is in between the atrium and the ventricle, on this side also, we have a valve present at this place. And what is the function of valve? If you remember, it prevents the backflow of blood. Why is it required over here? Now, how does blood flow? With the arrows you can understand that it is coming into the right atrium, going to the right ventricle, from right ventricle it is going to the lungs, from lungs it is coming back to the left atrium, from left atrium it is going to the left ventricle, and from left ventricle it is going to the aorta. This is the pathway of the blood. Let us write it somewhere. From body parts to right atrium to right ventricle to lungs, from lungs to left atrium, from left atrium to left ventricle, and from left ventricle to, let us draw this cycle, from left ventricle to back to the body parts. So this is the cycle of blood flow. From body parts it is going to the right atrium, from right atrium to right ventricle, from right ventricle to lungs. From lungs it will come back to left atrium, that will move to left ventricle, and from left ventricle it will move back to the body parts. So this is the complete cycle of the blood flow. You see, blood is coming into the heart twice. First it comes from the body parts, and then it moves out of the heart and it goes to the lungs, then comes back again into the heart from the lungs. So blood is coming twice into the heart and then one cycle is completed. So that is why it is known as double circulation. We have this first circulation is known as pulmonary circulation, and the second one is known as systemic circulation. Body parts to heart is known as systemic circulation, as you just saw in this diagram. Body parts to heart is known as systemic circulation, and heart to lungs and back to heart is known as pulmonary circulation. So this is how blood moves into the body, from the body to the heart to the lungs and back to the heart. So this is the cycle of blood flow. So tomorrow we will see the mechanism of blood flow and the heart diagram of heart that you can draw on your own. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe the channel and click on the bell icon to get the notification whenever a new video is released. If you liked it, do share it with your friends. Thank you.